A discussion about quality country songwriting with Dallas Remington on the Music Universe podcast.
I love doing these. It is so great to spend my afternoon recording these with you. I kind of hope the quarantine never ends because I want to keep doing this.
Well, if organizers of the government get their way, it may not for a couple years.
I don't believe anything. We talked about that on another episode. I don't believe anything like that. I just, day to day, because already they're forming committees about reopening the country and stuff, and I think we'll be back to probably about 75% by June, I would hope. All of this is great fodder for a young songwriter like Dallas Remington, who I was amazed by the head on her shoulders and just her grip on her identity as an artist.
You won't believe by our conversation that she's only 20 years old.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we try to set it up. We try to tee it up. I can tell you that she's written with some pretty big people. She kind of travels in some outer circle from a 90s country superstar, just in songwriting. I'm just talking songwriting now because one of her mentors wrote some great hits for Garth. And there's another connection, which isn't really a connection that, you know, we touch on it. And she's good friends with Allie Colleen, who, of course, is Garth's daughter, but is making a name for herself entirely. And we talk about her relationship to Allie, Dallas's relationship to Allie as a friend and a songwriter, and really what Dallas wants out of her career. And she's been doing this since she was 11 years old. It's amazing.
Yeah. And, you know, she's going to tell us her origins and tell us also about her new single and about what is coming up for her.
Dallas Remington, welcome to the Music Universe podcast. My two favorite things, Texas and guns. I love your name.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My mama says she knew what I was born to do.
I love that. So how are you taking advantage of, first of all, how are you doing? How's your family? Staying safe, staying home? What you doing right now?
We're doing very well. We went back to Kentucky about a month ago to be with my family. I live in Nashville now full time, but since this whole craziness kind of broke out, I packed up everything and went home to Kentucky so we could all just be together. And, you know, we're on a farm out there, so we're far away from everybody. And it's been a good time for us just to be together and stay safe together. And luckily we, you know, being on a farm, it's permanent social distancing. So we've been handling it pretty well. And none of our families been directly affected. I've had friends affected, but none of our family has been directly affected by this tragedy, crazy time, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to label.
It's all those.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. But yeah, so we've been doing really well. And I moved away from home when I was 15. So this is the longest I've been home in 5 years. So it's been good to just catch up and be with my family.
And what part of Kentucky?
We're from Paducah, Kentucky. So that's about as far west as you can get. Little farm area. So
you said you moved away when you were 15. I mean, tell me about that. That's amazing.
I started going to Nashville to perform when I was right before I turned 12. So we did that a lot. So we drove back and forth all the time. It was about a 2.5-hour drive. And then my mom and I finally just took that leap when I was 15. We got an apartment. So we switched to full-time to part-time then living in Nashville. So we'd spend 4 days in Nashville and then 3 days home in Kentucky. And then when I was about 17, my mom started a business down here. She's an interior designer. So we started a flipping business in Nashville where we flip houses. So it kind of caused us to have to switch to full-time, which was awesome because I was able to completely immerse myself in the craziness that is Nashville and get to go to shows constantly, play shows constantly, write every day. And it was a lot of people think I moved really young, but it was a very big blessing for me because I have literally grown up in this industry. I've grown up in Nashville. And so it's been awesome. And I have an amazing support system that allowed me to do that and supported me every step of the way. And I have amazing parents and an amazing brother who they wanted this for me as much as I wanted it for me. And so they were like, you know, let's do this. We're going to do this. Let's do it big. So it's been really cool growing up in Nashville and growing up in the industry and learning it, and changing with the industry as well.
Yeah, I know that having a big support system is everything, especially in this industry with, like you said, you're back and forth, 3 days one place, 4 days the next. I bet you got a big education in the music industry.
Yes, I definitely did. And, I didn't go to college. This is my full-time thing, is music. And so, my parents kind of looked at it that way because I knew early on that I wasn't going to be your typical college kid. And I might go back later, not saying there's anything about it, I might go back to college later on. But we just knew from the beginning that I was so invested in music that I just wanted to do music, and that's all I wanted to do. So my parents kind of looked at it as, this is my college, and I've done all the courses. I've done music business courses. I've done production courses. I've done everything just outside of being in that realm of it. And so my parents, like I said, they just looked at it. We sat down and we're like, okay, this is going to be my college. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go full force. We're going to jump in head first and just chase this. And so, I've been blessed to have amazing people surrounding me and amazing people on my teams that have been in the industry for so long that they are able to educate me on everything possible. I've been educated on publishing deals to where I'm having, like, that was the hardest thing for me, was figuring out what that meant and what that was doing. But I've had to, everything's come along. I've immersed myself in figuring out and educating myself in it so I can know when that, or how to get through that process,
All that effort, all that time focusing on music, how did you find the time to get a black belt in Taekwondo? That's just crazy.
So I actually did that when I was really young. I started Taekwondo when I was probably 5. And so I was the youngest in our organization to ever get a black belt. I was 8 when I got my first degree black belt.
Wow.
So I was really young when I did that. But it prepared me, for going out on my own. I can protect myself. That's
well, you don't need security now.
That. Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I'll probably still have a security guard eventually, but I can take care of myself if I have to. Don't try anything.
So, your current single is at number 40 on the breakout charts. When you found out that you were rising through those charts, how did it feel?
It's always an amazing feeling. This is our third single we've had up there in the 40s, and this one is our highest charting single to date, and we're super excited about it. And it's just kind of like, when you sit there and you think about it, it's like, holy cow, like, I'm doing this. Like, I'm not just chasing it. Like, I'm actually doing this dream that I've had forever. And I'm very thankful. Is my main emotion, is just so thankful to the stations that have supported me and have played me and have been with me every step of the way. We released my first single when I was 17 and debuted that single at that single went all the way to number 60 as an independent artist with one promoter, somebody no one had ever heard of. So they've been with me all the way from the beginning. So every time a single gets up there, I just cannot be anything but thankful and grateful for them for supporting me, loving me, and holding my hand through it and taking me all the way through it, because we literally could not do this without the station and without my amazing promotions team. And I sit down and I'm like, I don't need to cry all the time, but it's like, oh my gosh, this is happening. And so I think we're in the top 40. So I think we're 36 this week. So we're very excited about that. And we'll see where this single ends up.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I see some big names on the co-write here. You got Allie Colleen co-writing that song with you.
Yes. Yeah. So Allie is one of my, she's just one of my favorite people on the planet now. It's just been so fun to get to hang out with her. And Scott and Cindy, the other co-writers on the single, actually introduced me to her because they had been writing with her, and they're like, we think this would be a good match for all 4 of us to get together and just write some songs. And they ended up being kind of like my crew. And like, as a writer, you don't want to hold an idea from people or whatever, but it's kind of like, I have those ideas that I'm like, this is the one that I have to write with them. Like, they're the people that are going to understand me. So they were kind of like a little rotten family, and I love all three of them so much. And Allie is just an amazing singer, amazing songwriter, and it's been just an insane blessing to be able to be part of her life, her be part of my life, and get to write some songs with her and play shows together and hang out. So, and then Miss Cindy, that's also a co-writer on that single. You know, she had Garth Brooks cuts back in the day, and it was kind of one of those. I met her, and I was like, oh, it would just be such a dream to write with her. And then she called me to write with her, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was another, like, I'm going to cry moment, you know. I'm writing with someone who wrote one of my favorite songs ever. And so she wrote in Lonesome Dove by Garth Brooks, and it's just one of my favorite songs of all time. And, you know, I'm very thankful to that entire crew for just bringing me in and letting me write with them. Allie, Scott, and Cindy, they've just been amazing, and for supporting the song as well. I mean, it's amazing when you have, everyone loves when they get a cut, and everyone loves when they write a song, but it's absolutely amazing when you have co-writers that are promoting the song almost as much as you are, because they're so excited. They want it up there as well, too. So they're just, there's not another word except for amazing. They're just the best crew there is, and I loved writing this single with them. It was basically magic. It was one of those, you went in and we wrote the song in 3 hours, and then I cut it about 3 months later.
So were you guys all like in the same room together writing it?
Yes, yeah. So I got the idea when I was in Mississippi playing a festival, and I drove back, and the next morning I wrote with them, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but we've got to write this song. And they helped me develop the story, because I had started out with an idea. It was called Cosmopolitan, because the guy I was talking to was talking about how his ex-wife's Cosmopolitan magazines kept coming to his house after they got a divorce. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. There's something to that. So I was like, let's write a guy song. There's 3 girls in the room, but let's all go, and Scott. And I was like, let's write a guy song. And they're like, no, we're writing a girl song. Let's make this yours. So then we came up with Field and Stream, because that's what my dad used to read or always had around the house, you know. And then we created the whole story of hunting season. So, you know, I don't think the song would have turned out like it did, the way it did, if it hadn't been us 4 writing it, if we hadn't been in the room together just having a good time, making up the craziest story we could possibly make up.
Yeah.
Let me ask this. When you girls are writing together, how do you determine that's an Allie song, that's a Dallas song, that's somebody for somebody else? How are you deciding whose voice it's going to turn into?
Yeah, so actually, you know, sometimes there's like a spoken thing, like this is going to be mine, but then like with hunting season, we both perform it. But when it came down to, I was like, I played it for my producer, and he was like, we need to cut this. So I was like, hey, you know, like, we're going to cut it. And she was like, okay, go for it. You know, it's kind of like with her and I, you can just tell sometimes, like, this is an Allie song, this is a Dallas song, because we kind of have different sounds, but we still work together, you know? So it's just kind of, we've never had an issue or anything like that. It's just like, okay, this is Allie, this is Dallas. Because, you know, a lot of the times, especially with that group, we're writing, which obviously hunting season was not a personal experience. I always have to say that. This is not something we've gone through. But a lot of times we're writing stuff that is personal to one of us or, you know, one of the writers. So it just kind of, you can just feel it in the room, like, okay, this is going to be an Allie song, or this is going to be a Dallas song. Hunting season started out with Allie singing it, and then I fell in love with it and ended up being a Dallas song. So you just never know. And I think we just live with the song, and then it kind of speaks who needs to be the one singing it, you know? How
much of that 90s country music is in your blood and is in, because it is so fascinating to me, just as somebody fascinated by country music history, that you have literally somebody like Cindy and then Allie, who of course grew up by osmosis. We all know who her father is. This group of you guys being mentored and shepherded by a songwriter like Cindy, or taking those influences that you lived with every single day during that era. What does it mean to you? How much of that 90s-ness is in what you guys do?
I always tell everybody, I grew up on what I call country music. So I grew up on 90s country. I grew up on 70s and 80s country too. My mom and my grandmother love Conway Twitty. Like, that's the stuff I grew up on. So and then I grew up obviously with Garth Brooks and Patti Loveless and all those 80s, 90s guys and girls. And that's just what I've always just fallen in love with. So, when you get to Nashville and you get to write with the people who wrote those songs, it's just the craziest thing in my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting in the room with somebody who wrote one of the songs that changed my life, or I'm playing around with the dude who wrote the dance. Like, it's just weird. You think about it, these are the things these are the songs that shaped me, like made me feel like I want to be a singer. I want to be a songwriter. And just to be in a room with those people, it really does just blow my mind. And it like, thank you God for getting me to this place, because this is what I love, what I've always loved. And to be surrounded by the people and be mentored by the people who wrote those songs and who shaped the 90s in their songwriting is just, I always say amazing. I say amazing a lot, but it's just the most amazing feeling. Literally, there's no other word I can think of to describe it, and then to just sit down and be like, I know these people, and these people want it for me, and they're helping me. And, Cindy was my first mentor as a songwriter. I'd only ever written with one other person. I'd only written by myself. And the other person I'd written with was someone my age. I felt like I needed to write with kids my age because nobody was going to think I had anything to say at 15, So I was writing with another girl who was like 16. We were writing some songs, and then Cindy was like, let's write. And I was so scared about it because I was like, she's a hit writer. She's never had, she's not going to think I have anything to say. And she just took me by the hand and showed me that even at 15, a homeschooled 15-year-old that does nothing but play guitar had something to say and could be in a room with these established people and had something to offer. And so I'll always be so grateful for her, for being there, for being my songwriting mentor, for teaching me really how to co-write, and just being she's like my songwriting mama is what I call her, and being one of my best friends ever now. It's just, I will never be able to thank her enough for being that, and thank God enough for putting me in the path to meeting her.
Yeah, and I know that you released your debut album, Freedom, on July 4th of 2018, so we're coming up on 2-year anniversary of that. Are you working on...
Oh, that's so weird.
Yeah, right? Are you working on a follow-up for that?
Yes, we are. I was actually talking to my producer this afternoon. We're going to figure out, with the craziness of the coronavirus and everything, it's going to be hard to do the full record. We are working on our new single now, which is going to segue into, with hunting season and this single are segueing into the new record. So as soon as this clears up and we can have, 10 people in the same room together again, we'll get the new record done. We've been working on picking out the songs. We've been working on everything. We're in the middle of picking out the next single right now because I'm the most indecisive person on the planet. I'm like, any of them. Let's go. So I'm sending them all off to the team right now to be like, okay, these are the ones that I want out there. You pick the one that needs to be out there right now. So we're working on that, and we're super excited. I don't even have a name for the record. I have some ideas of a name for a record, but it's kind of one of those things that I'm just, especially in this time when I can't do anything but, play some virtual shows, do some Skype writing and things like that. I'm sitting down and I'm looking at songs that I've written over the past 5 years. And I'm like, what are things that I feel like needs to come from me right now? And what is the most me in this moment that the world needs to hear?
Has anybody ever told you you're like so mature?
I get that a lot.
You are so mature. I don't know how old you are, and I'm not going to ask, but I can tell you're a younger, new artist, and we're probably around the same age, close to it. You are so mature for somebody in that age bracket. That's just amazing to hear you talk.
Thank you. I'll say how old I am. I just turned 20 in February.
Wow.
So,
oh, my goodness. Could have had me fooled.
Yeah, a lot of people think I'm older, but
You definitely sound like it as far as your maturity. And I'm interested. You really got me intrigued because your bio says you're a no-nonsense country recording artist and songwriter. What is the no-nonsense part of you? Because that's really, I'm sitting here glaring at that on the screen, and I just have to ask.
so we sat down with some people a long time ago, and they were like, "What describes you, or what do you not like?" I was like, my main thing that I love is I love honesty. And I just want the whole world to know that what they're seeing on their screen, what they're hearing in the radio is me. I'm never going to sing a song that I don't feel like is me. I'm never going to write a song I've written songs for other artists, and that's great. But, when you sit down and you say, oh, well, this person, you wrote this for this person, why don't you cut it? It's because I wrote it for that person, So the no-nonsense thing is, I am a country girl from a farm. I grew up on a farm. I grew up four-wheeling every day, and I just want the whole world to see that I am what I say I am. So that's where the no-nonsense thing comes in, because I just want to be as honest as possible, and I want them to see me for me, and I don't want to be, putting on. So, everything that y'all see or you hear is literally something that comes from my heart or something that I've, am very proud of. And so that's why that's when we developed the whole, the no-nonsense thing, because they're like, we really noticed that you really care about honesty. That's why I feel like I've really, that's why I love country music so much, because there's so much honesty in so many of the lyrics. And so that's just been a giant part of who I've always been. And my mom says sometimes I'm a little too brutally honest, but, so I want the world to see me for me. And, so I guess that would be no nonsense.
We need more brutally honest people in this world, honestly. And that's what I love about country music, because you can almost say whatever you want in country music, and it's seen as no nonsense and honesty, not anything other.
Yes, definitely. And that's why I love country music, and that's why I fell in love with the lyrics. And, people always ask me how I came to country music or where I was when I first heard a country song. That's what I've grown up with. So I think that's part of why I always gravitate towards those songs that you really feel like the person invested everything into it. Either they've lived through it or they've known somebody that's lived through it. Like there's something there that they feel deep in their soul. And I've always gravitated towards those songs. I've always gravitated to lyrics like that. And so that's what country music is and was and has always been. And so I'm trying to just put my honest lyrics out to the world, except some of them are a little stretch. I've never hunted a guy. But,
not yet.
No, I'm going to say I'm not going to do that because,
Well, I get it. And I got to tell you, what we love is talking to an artist, especially a young artist who has such a head on their shoulders and such a grip on their artistry and such a maturity about them and self-awareness in what they want to do. Dallas Remington, this was a pleasure. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed this.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
I love doing these. New artists, you never know what you're going to get, and I'm just thrilled that, I hate to say that, but it's true. It's a little bit of a behind-the-scenes journalism thing. Is you can watch an established artist doing other interviews. When you have a new artist and you're just one of the first outlets or whatever to have them, you don't know what you're getting. But a lot of times it's just a thrill to be along for the journey, because in 3 or 4 years when they hit it big, and I do think Dallas will hit it really big, you can say, I remember when, we were one of the first interviews and we saw something, and boy, weren't we right.
It is fun to break artists, and I know usually bigger outlets tend to do that just due to their promotional team and stuff, but we've been really blessed to get some good artists on this show, new artists and established artists, so I'm really excited. I think she's got a great career ahead as well, and I look forward to what she's going to bring.
Absolutely. All right, well, for the Music Universe podcast, I'm Matt Bailey.
And I'm Buddy On. Thanks for listening, and keep checking out themusicuniverse.com.